If you're listening to this late at night, I want you to understand something first. I didn't go looking for what happened to me. I didn't break into anywhere I wasn't supposed to be. I didn't trespass or dig or spy. I just stayed where I was told to stay. And that's what still keeps me awake. I live in a town most people pass through without slowing down. One traffic light, a diner that closes at 8, a gas station that smells like old coffee and gasoline no matter how many times they mop the floor. It's the kind of place where people wave even if they don't recognize you, and where nothing ever makes the news unless a deer wanders onto the highway. I moved there after my divorce, looking for quiet. I rented a small house on the edge of town, backed up against a stretch of woods no one really owned anymore. The landlord called it a midnight garden in the listing. I thought it was a joke. What he meant was a neglected backyard with overgrown hedges, a few dying flower beds, and a tree line that swallowed the moonlight after sunset. The first few weeks were uneventful, peaceful even. I worked the late shift at a distribution warehouse 30 minutes away, which meant I slept during the day and lived most of my life at night. That suited me. No traffic, no conversations, just the hum of the highway and the distant sound of insects when I got home. The garden didn't bother me at first. I barely went back there, but sometimes, standing at the kitchen sink around 3 in the morning, I'd notice the way the darkness behind the house seemed thicker than it should have been, like it absorbed the porch light instead of reflecting it. The first strange thing I noticed was the footprints. They appeared one morning after a night of heavy rain. Bare footprints leading from the tree line to the edge of my back porch, then stopping. They weren't mine. I wear boots always. And they weren't fresh enough to belong to a delivery driver or neighbor cutting through. They were deep, toes spread slightly, as if whoever made them had been standing there for a while. I convinced myself it was nothing. Kids, maybe, or someone drunk wandering home. I washed them away with the hose and went back to my routine. After that, it was the sounds. Not animal sounds, not the usual rustling or snapping branches. It was slower, deliberate, like someone walking carefully, trying not to be heard. I'd hear it when I lay in bed during the day, trying to sleep. A soft crunch, then nothing, then another crunch closer to the house. Every time I looked out the window, there was nothing there, just the garden, unmoving and empty. The coincidences started piling up after that. I'd come home from work and find the back gate unlatched. I'd swear I'd locked it. Once, I found a lawn chair moved from the shed and placed under my bedroom window, facing the house. I told myself the wind did it. I told myself a lot of things. What I didn't tell myself was how often I started feeling watched. It's a specific feeling, not fear exactly, more like awareness, like your body knows something your mind refuses to accept. I'd feel it when I stepped into the garden to take out the trash. The hairs on my arms would lift, and I'd get the urge to turn around, even though there was nothing behind me. I stopped going back there at night. That's when the knocking started. It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. Just a single knock on the back door, always between 2:30 and 3 o'clock a.m., always once, never repeated. The first time, I froze in the hallway, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I waited. Minutes passed. Nothing else happened. The second time, I called the police. They came, walked the perimeter, shined their flashlights into the trees. They told me it was probably a prank, or an animal hitting the door. One of them smiled like he didn't quite believe me, but didn't want to say it. After that, the knocking stopped. For a while. Instead, I started noticing changes in the garden itself. Plants trimmed in places I hadn't touched. Dead leaves cleared from small circular patches of dirt, like someone had knelt there. Once, I found a shallow hole near the old rose bushes, freshly covered, the soil darker than the rest. I didn't dig it up. I should have. My sleep started to fall apart. I'd lie awake listening, replaying every sound, every shadow. I started seeing movement where there was none. My reflection in the window began to look unfamiliar to me, like I was watching someone else slowly come undone. One night, driving home, I noticed headlights behind me on the highway. They stayed there the entire drive. When I turned onto my road, they turned too. When I pulled into my driveway, they slowed and kept going. I sat in my car for a long time after that. The breaking point came when I found something on my porch. A shoe. Old, worn, mud-caked, too small to belong to an adult. It sat neatly beside the door, laces tucked in, as if placed with care. I recognized it immediately. A missing kid had been on the local news weeks earlier, a boy from a neighboring town. They'd shown his photo over and over again. The shoe matched the one in the picture. I called the police again. This time, they didn't smile. They searched the woods more thoroughly. Dogs were brought in. They found nothing. No body, no evidence, just trees and dirt and silence. They told me to stay somewhere else for a few days. I didn't. Something in me didn't want to leave. Not curiosity, not courage. It felt more like obligation, like the house was waiting for something to finish. The final night, I woke up to the sound of digging. It was close, right outside my bedroom window. Slow, steady, rhythmic. I lay there, paralyzed, listening to dirt being moved to breath that wasn't mine. At some point, the digging stopped. I waited for the knock. It didn't come. Instead, I heard footsteps moving away from the house back toward the garden. I don't know why I did it, but I got out of bed and looked out the window. In the faint light, I saw the disturbed earth near the rose bushes, a mound that hadn't been there before. Something pale was visible beneath the soil. I didn't call the police. I packed a bag and left before sunrise. They found remains weeks later, not just one set, multiple, buried shallow, marked by small, careful clearings in the garden. The case is still open. No suspect, no explanation for how it happened without anyone noticing. The house is empty now. The garden has been fenced off. Sometimes, when I drive past it on my way through town, I swear I can see the plants moving where there's no wind, as if something underneath is still shifting, still making room. And every once in a while, late at night, when I'm trying to sleep somewhere far from there, I hear a single, quiet knock. Not at my door, but inside my head.